The Cardinals-Cubs series lived up to all the hype, and I, for one, think that the Cardinals should be thanking Mother Nature, Craig Counsell, and the Cubs for a certain decision that just may have resurrected this bitter and disappointed fan base. This is Locked on Cardinals.
You are Locked on Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Hafford, and I'm a national radio sports anchor, born and raised in the Lou, and a lifetime Cardinals fan. And I'm your host for Locked on Cardinals, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, covering your team every day. You can follow me on Twitter, X at JD Sports Radio. You can follow the podcast at LO_Cardinals. I want to thank those of you who make Locked on Cardinals your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube. If you haven't been there yet, stop on by, like, subscribe, comment, hit that notification button so you know when the new episodes are posted. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving the best fans in baseball all of the info about the birds on the bat. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So Mother Nature played a few tricks on the Cardinals in this homestand, right? It sadly cost us one of the games against the Cubs, but might have worked out in the Cardinals' favor in the long run. So I'll talk more about that later. But the two games that the Cubs and the Cardinals were able to play were nothing less than spectacular to watch. You know, you throw out the records because we know that these two franchises have been a little bit disappointing in the last couple of years. Just go talk to their fan bases about it, and you'll pick up on that. But it honestly, for once, finally felt like real Cardinal baseball had returned to Busch Stadium, and the Chicago Cubs were a big piece of that. The Chicago Cubs fans, a big piece of that. You know, the stands were packed with red and blue. There were chanting. There was trash talking. Family members split right down the center. You got, mom and brother wearing Cubs stuff, and then you got sister and dad over here in the Cardinals gear and wearing the Cardinals attire. You had the City Connects making their debut. The beer lines were long, food lines were long, but that's the atmosphere you want at Busch Stadium and surrounding the actual gameplay on the field, which lived up to what we wanted. I don't think anybody's going to accuse these teams of being ready to hang with the big dogs in Major League Baseball. Not yet, even though the Cardinals have been playing very, very well. But I don't think you're going to say, hey, we should have them up there with teams like the Phillies. I don't think we're there yet, although the Cardinals did just sweep the Orioles, who are a legit powerhouse. After leaving St. Louis, the Orioles just swept the White Sox, 1-4 straight. But I think we can all agree that what we saw over the past 2 days with the Cubs being in town, that was a whole lot of fun. And of course, it doesn't hurt because the Cardinals won both the games. We had drama throughout both of them. Timely hitting on both sides, some pretty good defense, despite seeing a few routine errors for both teams, but that happens. The bullpens were utilized in smart and in good ways. It just felt like meaningful, dare I say, almost playoff atmosphere type of baseball. And you're getting that at the end of May in St. Louis with a team that's under 500, despite as well as they've played recently. They're still under 500 on the season. And I think part of the reason it felt this way for the Cardinals is because so much was actually riding on this homestand. I spoke about that. And in this series in particular, as the Cardinals try to prove, to the league, to themselves, and in my opinion, most importantly, to the fans, that they're not the sub 500 perennial losers that they've been playing like since the beginning of the 2023 season. And it's been tough to try to get fans to come back on board and to try to enjoy Cardinal baseball again and to be as supportive as they normally are. I mean, losing will do that to you. Coming into the homestand, the Cardinals were going to, face three teams that at the time had records of 500 or better. Personally, I was hoping let's just get 5 wins out of the 9 games, just come away with a winning record, and it would be something to build on. And instead, the Cardinals go 7-1 in this homestand. 7-1. Had the one rain out, so they didn't get to play that 9th game. But they lose the one game to the Red Sox on Sunday, which was an ugly game. They get trounced 11-3. It was brutal. But then they sweep the Orioles. They win both games against the Cubs. They're now 25-26 on the season. Have won 10 of their last 12. They've won 5 in a row, which is currently the second longest winning streak in baseball behind the Cleveland Guardians, who miraculously have won 9 in a row, and they're doing it without Shane Bieber, who's done for the year. Like, I don't know how Cleveland's pulling it off. I have no clue, but they've been impressive in the AL Central. And, you know, after the Orioles series, you could feel the fan base, which has been angry and bitter and disappointed since the beginning of the 2023 season. You could feel them start to turn following the performance you saw against Baltimore. Winning 2 of 3 against that team would have made people happy, but to sweep the Orioles with all that talent coming off a 100-win season, that was a huge confidence boost for everyone involved, coaches, players, front office, and, of course, the fans. And you started to see them trickle back a little bit. Like, if you are online and you're kind of going off the vibes of what people are saying online about this team, you could feel them starting to ease up a little bit, not quite trying to strangle everybody involved. You know how when you're living in your neighborhood and you see a fire truck or you see police lights or an ambulance pull up and you can't help it, right? You go out to your window and you open the blinds. You're like, okay, what's going on out there? Maybe you're curious enough that you walk out onto the porch to go see what's going on. You start, doing that neck move, where you're looking around for some reason. You're trying to get a better angle. You refuse to move your feet, but you move your neck around in all these weird ways to try to get a better view. You're kind of like, oh, what's going on over there? That's how I think fans felt after the Orioles series. Oh, what is that? Is that cheering and excitement coming from Busch Stadium? I wonder what's going on down there. Maybe I should put on my slippers and go check it out. But as great as that was, you lose to the Cubs, and it's all for naught, right? The Orioles are great, but they aren't the Cubs. They're not your division rival. You lose to Chicago, and that would have set everything back where we were before you even started the series against Baltimore. And then the trolls and the naysayers, they'd be able to rise once again and say, see, we told you don't trust them. Fire Ollie, fire Mo, trade Goldie, trade Arenado, send Gorman down, sign Bauer. You see them. They write in all caps in the comments and online over and over and over. You know who they are. And despite it being a huge bummer that Friday's game got rained out, because that sucked, because we're all excited to see a Cardinals Cubs series, right? First time we got to see them this year play each other. It did force a decision to be made by Cubs manager Craig Counsell and the Cubs that likely helped lead the Cardinals to winning both games of the series. I'm going to tell you what that decision was next on Locked On Cardinals. Going to baseball games in St. Louis, it is a tradition, even when the team is losing. Although they haven't done a lot of that recently, you still want to make that trek down to Ballpark Village at least once a summer, right? You're going to go do it. You're going to go with the family. You're going to take either your kids and your wife, or you're going to go with your family and go with your parents. And, you're going to go down there and cheer on the boys at Busch Stadium. And when you need tickets to the game, you shouldn't be looking any farther than going to the Gametime app. It is the best way to get tickets to go see not only the St. Louis Cardinals, but any of the teams in Major League Baseball. It's an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster, makes it easier. Prices on the app actually go down the closer you get to the first pitch. They get those killer last-minute deals for you. They got the all-in prices, so you're not, how you'll see on some places where you got a ticket price, then you're like, oh, cool, and then it just like triples because they add all the taxes and the fees and all that stuff on there. You get the all-in prices right away, so they're not trying to sneak anything past you. You get views from your seat wherever you're choosing from, and you get the lowest price guarantee. It takes the guesswork out of buying tickets to any Major League Baseball games. You get the flash deals, the zone deals, the lowest price guarantee, or Gametime. will credit you 110% of the difference. And your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of it. What are you doing? Why are you getting tickets other places? Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONMLB. We'll save you some money. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. Pretty nice. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and have to turn down the volume because they keep screaming at you through the television? Then make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel, and it's programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all of that screaming. You get analysis, opinions, news, and it's streaming 24/7, so no matter what your schedule is, it's going to be available for you on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network. You're a team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. Leave your comments on YouTube as well as on Twitter X anytime you want. Feedback always welcome and encouraged. Even if you are in all caps and you're yelling at me that the Cardinals need to sign Trevor Bauer, that's fine. You can still put it in there. I don't mind. I'm just glad you're a part of it all. So let's get back to the Cardinals and Cubs series, okay? Because of the rain on Friday, Cubs and the Cardinals couldn't play. Like I said, that was a bummer. And the game, by the way, in case you didn't know, rescheduled for July the 13th. But due to the rain, to Mother Nature, the Cubs decided not to throw their number one pitcher, Shota Imanaga. Not just, on Friday because of rain, but decided to push him back out of the series. Clearly scared of the Cardinals' thunderous lineup at the time, I'm sure. But they chose to push him back. They wanted to give him some extra rest. Honestly, no shame in that whatsoever. I completely understand that. I do. Looking at the big picture of the season, you want to keep him fresh, and that makes sense. But it really benefited what was going on with the Cardinals at the time, who, again, they come into the series riding high after sweeping the Orioles. And if the Cubs decided to slide Imanaga back to Saturday, and then he ends up pitching the way he has been pitching against everybody so far during the regular season, he ends up shoving against the Cardinals and locking them up. We'd be talking about this series in a completely different way. It wouldn't be so sunshine and rainbows on this Monday. But instead of having to face Imanaga, the Cardinals get the guys the Cubs had already lined up for Saturday and Sunday, and Jamison Taillon and Javier Assad. And it's not like those guys didn't pitch well, because they did. But when you can avoid the other team's ace, like the Cardinals were able to do in the Baltimore series, they didn't have to see Corbin Burns. That's always a good thing, just mentally going into a game and it's not one of their best pitchers, you feel like you have a better shot at winning. You just do. When that other team's number one isn't staring you down, you feel better. You also didn't have to face Justin Steele in this series against the Cubs, who was their number one. He's dealt with some injuries this year, so his numbers aren't quite what we're used to seeing, but Justin Steele has dominated the Cardinals. He's pitched very, very well against them. I think he's 4-1 in like 6 starts, the ERA under 3.5. Like, he's been very good against the Cardinals. So it was nice that the Cardinals didn't have to see him either. Saturday's game, the team debuts the new City Connects. So you had that buzz around the ballpark because of that. And you had 45,000 plus in attendance, which, again, how awesome is it to see Busch Stadium packed again? Like, it just feels right. It feels right. And the Cardinals jump out early in that one. They scored 2 in the 3rd inning, but then Miles Mikolas, he does what he does in pretty much every game this year. He has one bad inning. I mean, honestly, if Mikolas was able to avoid the one big bad inning, I mean, we might be talking Cy Youngs for this guy right now, because he seems amazing in every other inning. But then he always has that one where he gives up 3, 4, 5, and it just throws everything off. But for whatever reason, it just is what happens. And you never know what inning it's going to be. Is it going to be in the 1st, the 3rd, the 5th? I mean, you don't know when it's coming at you. It's like playing Miles Mikolas roulette. You never know where the bullet's going to be. But it was the 4th inning on Saturday. Dreaded 2-out walk. Preceded a 2-run double by Nico Horner. And then you get the RBI single by Michael Busch. And Cardinals are in a hole. But even after they coughed up the lead, the way they've been playing, you still had confidence that the team could come back. They've been doing it all year, despite the losing record. They have been able to come back in a lot of games this year. So trailing by just one run, it didn't feel insurmountable by any means. And the Cardinals knotted things back up on a 2-out RBI double by Mason Wynn, who is now starting to get that national attention that he deserves. I only wish Jordan Walker was here to be a part of it and do things with Mason Wynn. They're best friends. They're the future of the Cardinals. And, Walker's stuck in Memphis right now trying to get right. He'll be back at some point. I have faith in that. But it's just kind of a bummer because you're seeing the photos and stuff of Mason Wynn all over the place, right? They're all over the ballpark, and they're starting to push him as a superstar. And I just wish Jordan Walker could be a part of it because he's supposed to be there doing it with them, and it sucks that he's not. But anyway, score's tied now, right? 3-3. You get the weird error on Paul Goldschmidt over at first base. That's following a walk by Andrew Kittredge, and that leads to the Cubs taking the lead in the 7th. But the Cardinals end up rallying in the 8th inning. Grizzled veteran Matt Carpenter, Marp, gets the clutch single to right field with 2 outs, scoring Alec Burleson from second base. And I tell you what, if the Cardinals end up continuing to progress the way they are, and this becomes a more successful season than the way things started, and of course better than what we saw last year, that play is going to go down as one of the big highlights for sure. You get the clutch hit from Carp, great base running. You get the great slide. It's a bang play at the plate. The reaction from Burley following the call, it was just awesome. And for my older Cardinal fans out there, you could probably relate to this one. It reminds me of when Glenn Brummer stole home for the Cardinals in 1982 to win a game. I think they were facing the Giants that day. Just like the mannerisms involved and, the intensity of the situation just kind of made me flash back to that highlight. So you might remember that one. But just a huge play. And then the Cardinals continue the rally. You get the clutch 2-run single from Brendan Donovan, then the Newt triple, and all of a sudden you're looking at a 7-4 ball game. Bush is rocking, but the Cubs, they don't go away. They mount a comeback in the 9th inning against Helsley, who was uncharacteristically very hittable in the 2 games against Chicago. They were jumping on him early in counts, specifically the fastball. You saw him kind of switch things up in game 2, but he finally shuts the door on Saturday night. Cardinals win the game 7-6. Then on Sunday, we had the 2.5-hour rain delay. Sonny Gray got the ball against Assad, who we mentioned earlier, and Sonny was dominant. He goes 5 innings. He allows 1 hit, no runs, strikes out 8, throws just 74 pitches, ends up getting pulled after 5 innings, which had us all worried that maybe Sonny was dealing with an injury or something, but that wasn't the case. Precautionary. Ali said after the game that Sonny was having trouble getting his lower half loose throughout the entire day. And with his extensive way that he goes about setting up for games and his pregame stuff, it just didn't make sense to keep pushing him. So the Cardinals didn't want to do that. So they decided, let's be cautious here. No use in pushing it. 5 solid innings. We got a healthy, rested bullpen. So he leaves with a 4-0 lead thanks to 2-run shots by Paul Goldschmidt, who, don't look now, I'm not saying he's starting to resemble MVP Goldschmidt, but starting to look like the Goldschmidt we are used to seeing in a Cardinal uniform. The guy we've been accustomed to for his tenure in St. Louis. His last 11 games, he's now batting .298, 3 home runs, 8 RBIs, the OPS up to .906. He's taking better at bats. He's getting better swings. The strikeouts, still a concern, but we'll take it if you're going to have that production, right? Same thing with like Nolan Gorman. Still, strikeouts are always going to be a problem for him, but over his last 10 games or something, he's hitting 345 or something like that. So you'll take it. It's a give and take thing there with the strikeouts, John King followed Sonny into the game. Once again, he tosses a solid shutout inning. John King, man. John King. ERA is now under 2, 1.98. Props to the King. It was the Trinity that got dinged up in this series against Chicago. Kick gives up a 2-run shot to Cardinal killer Ian Happ to cut the lead in half. Romero had to work out of a bases-loaded jam in the 8th inning, and then Happ would pop another dinger, this time off Helsley, in the top of the 9th inning, makes it 4-3, and we're all sweating again. Ian Happ, what is it about Ian Happ and the Cardinals? How have we not figured out how to get this dude out? He's now hit 24 home runs against the Cardinals in 100 games in his career. What is it with this guy? Can he go pick on somebody else? leave the Cardinals alone. Cubs end up getting a couple of more singles off Helsley, which makes things even more stressful before he finally ends the game to get his 17th save of the year. Helsley, coming into the series against Chicago, had not allowed an earned run since April 8th. That's 16 innings, no runs. In that stretch, opponents have gone 7 of 53 against him, 132 batting average, 19 Ks before the weekend. So hopefully, whatever was going on with Chicago, whatever they were picking up on, the Cardinals can figure out how to not let that happen again. Hopefully it's just a hiccup with Helsley, because obviously he's a big important piece at the back of that bullpen. But the Cubs had something going on there. They kind of knew what was either what was coming, or they just had an idea that he was going to go fastball early, because you saw in Sunday night's game, he quit throwing the four-seam fastball and was going just straight sliders and curveballs, and he got away with it because the Cubs were jumping all over it. So hopefully they'll figure it out and get that all squared away. But Cardinals win it. They get 2 from the Cubs, both games. So kind of a sweep, not a full-on sweep, maybe like one of those little brush sweeps. You could go with that instead. But needless to say, a monster homestand for the St. Louis Cardinals. So we've got more about that and the series, and the team has made a move. Brought back a familiar name to the roster. We'll talk about all of this coming up next on Locked On Cardinals. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades, SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. You can shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. I'm actually having some work done on a jacuzzi tub that I own in one of my condos, and one of the buttons just went out. So I got an electrician who's got to look at it, and we're going to need a new button. It's going to happen. Whatever he figures out is wrong with it, other than the button, we're going to have to order that. And guess where we're going for this? That's right, SupplyHouse.com. That's what we're doing. So if you need help with an order, get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business, and you can talk to a real person every time, which is always very, very nice. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. So join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at SupplyHouse.com/TM. And order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. It's now also available on Amazon Fire TV and in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows which cover every league. You can find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Again, when it comes to stats about stuff with the Cardinals, there's a lot of great places to go. For me, specifically, I like Rob Raines at STLSportspage.com. Always has a ton of cool stats that he throws out there after each game. So I always encourage you to check out his work. And he put up some things about this Cubs series and about this homestand. Going 7-1 on the homestand against the Red Sox, Orioles, and Cubs, with one game rained out. We know that. The Cardinals ended up scoring offensively 45 runs, which was an average of 5.62 runs a game. In winning 10 of their last 12 games, they have scored an average of 5.67 runs a game over that stretch. When the Cardinals were losing this year, remember, they were sitting around the 3 runs a game spot, and it wasn't enough. We knew it wasn't enough. They knew it wasn't enough, and they just had to get the bats going. That's why they're winning. The pitching has been good enough, but then you've got the offense making up for the lack of dominant pitching that the Cardinals possess. And we knew that's what the plan was coming into the season. Now you're starting to see that plan come to fruition and play out the way that they wanted it to. Mason Wynn mentioned how he's becoming a star. His single in the 4th inning on Sunday extended his hitting streak to 15 games. That is the longest by a Cardinals hitter this season. He also extended his streak to 28 consecutive plate appearances without striking out, dating back to May 15th. What do we say coming into the season? Mason Wynn usually struggles no matter what level he gets promoted to, whether it's from A to AA, AA to AAA, Takes him a little bit to kind of get used to what's going on at that level. And then he starts to turn it around and become the offensive weapon that he has been throughout his career. It happened at every single level. Came up last year, didn't look great, struggled a little bit earlier on this season, and now you're starting to see the guy that the Cardinals thought they had offensively. Defensively, the routine errors are becoming a little bit annoying, but he's also made some phenomenal plays. And obviously the arm makes up for a lot of stuff. So work in progress, still a young guy. This is not some 27-year-old dude that we're talking about. We're talking about, what is he, 21? All right. So let's not crush the kid on just for every error that he makes. But the errors are becoming an issue, not only for Mason Wynn, but for the Cardinals in general, man. We got to stop that. An error by Wynn extended the Cardinals streak to 11 consecutive games with at least one error, their longest since they made at least one error in the first 14 games of the 1976 season. So far, it hasn't burned the Cardinals in a way where they're losing games because of it, but it's making these games a little more interesting than they need to be, right? It's putting the pitchers in bad situations that they don't need to be in. So got to clean that up. Lars Nootbaar in the original lineup on Sunday was scratched as a precautionary move after he was said to be suffering from a tight hamstring, which is something we don't want. And then you saw during the second Paul Goldschmidt home run, Lars Nootbaar, he's up on the top of the dugout, and he almost falls over the players that had to catch him and stuff. Like, Noot, you're a very fragile guy. All right, let's not be screwing around too much and getting hurt celebrating home runs. All right, do me that solid. The Cardinals also made a roster move before the game on Sunday, putting reliever Nick Robertson on the IL, right elbow inflammation, which is never good. But they're bringing back Andre Pallante, who has been down at Memphis for about a month, I think now. We know he struggled in the major leagues. He had a tough year last year, coming off that 2022 season where Pallante looked outstanding. Last year was rough. He had a rough go at the WBC. Then it was a rough season in St. Louis. Had a rough start to this year as well. Appeared in 9 games, 6.30 ERA, 1.90 whip across 10 frames. Not good. But down in Memphis, whatever they've been working on, he's gotten better. 4 games, 3 starts, 2.20 ERA, 9 strikeouts, 13 walks. Not great. 16 and a third innings. Kept righties to a 143 batting average. The lefties, who he's been good at getting out at the major league level, were hitting 333 against him. So we'll see what they use him for. Because of the rain out on Friday, the Cardinals were able to avoid that 5th spot in the rotation, which is up in the air right now because Matz is hurt. Matthew Liberatore has not been very good in that spot, so they want to keep him in the bullpen where he has been good. So the dilemma right now is who's going to throw in that 5th game, or that 5th spot, I should say. And that spot is going to come around in the rotation on Wednesday. It's a day game in Cincinnati against the Reds. Pallante could be that guy. He's been stretched out. I think I saw something like 85 pitches. So they might give him the start in that game. Just prepare yourself for that if that's the decision they decide to make. Like I mentioned, Cardinals are going to be in Cincinnati. Afternoon game today on Monday. Got in at 3:15 in the morning on Monday. So not sure how rested the Cardinals are going to be going into. MLB just did them kind of dirty in this one because you had the Sunday game against the Cubs, so a night game. You're not anticipating a rain delay of 2.5 hours, but rain delay nonetheless. And then you ship them in the middle of the night to Cincinnati to play a day game in the afternoon against a team that's been at home this whole time because they just had the Dodgers in town, who they swept, by the way, played some really good baseball. Whatever reason, the Dodgers offense just went silent in Cincinnati this past weekend. So Lance Lynn will get the ball for the Cardinals. Lefty Nick Lodolo will get the ball. He's coming off the IL for the Reds. So who knows what you're going to get out of him. Sometimes he's really good. Sometimes he struggles. So we'll see. But Reds, they got a lot of momentum going right now, despite having an ugly, it was like they lost like 15 of 18, something like that. Well, they just swept the Dodgers. So they're not thinking about the losing at all. Feeling pretty good about themselves. And Big Brother Cardinals coming to Great American Small Park for the next 3 days. The Reds always seem to give the Cardinals fits when they're in Cincinnati. At least Adam Wainwright's not pitching in Cincinnati, right? He's the one who usually gets murdered at Great American Ballpark. So you can avoid that. But it'll be Lance Lynn on the mound on Monday. Hopefully the boys can avoid the letdown from the lack of sleep. And after, what was a wonderful 7-1 homestand at Busch. So it's the opener of a 9-game, 10-day trip that also includes stops at Philadelphia and in Houston. So it isn't going to be easy. So whatever momentum they grabbed in this homestand, gotta keep it going. Got to keep it going. Let's see if they can get to the 500 mark on Monday. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. If you haven't already, please give us a follow on Twitter, X at LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio. Like, subscribe on YouTube, help our channel and our love for the Cardinals grow. You guys are the best fans in baseball for a reason, and I will see you next time. By the way, I'll be at all 3 games in Cincinnati against the Reds, so keep an eye out for me. I'll be putting up pictures and videos and whatnot during and after the game. So should be fun. Looking forward to it. You guys are the best fans of baseball for a reason. We'll see you next time on Locked On Cardinals.